Well, thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be here, actually. I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's happening out there in civil society. Does anyone know what civil society is? It's the sort of collective noun du jour for charities, social enterprises, community organisations that are creating some form of social impact in our society. We have a bit of a canter planned through the slides. I'm going to be jumping through slides, so do bear with me. A bit about me. I spent the last 17 years playing around with the internet. My gift, my passion, is in connecting people. I can't help myself. I like just joining dots up. This saw me start life as a headhunter working with James Carden. I used to headhunt intellectual property lawyers into city law firms, which is fun. And naturally, I got behind one of the very early .coms in the UK called Taps.com, the first job board that we launched in 1995. Latterly, I spun out a variety of different .com ventures, all of which are about connecting talent. I fundamentally believe that all of us, every single last one of us on this planet, is utterly unique. Each and every one of us have something special, a talent, a gift, something to share with the world. It's a mixture of our genetics, a mixture of environmental factors, experiences that we've gathered along the way, but I think all of us have got something to offer. And as Mark Twain once said, the two best days in your life are the day you're born and the day you realise why you were born. So I'm going to talk about that today, if I may. So, without further ado, it's pretty grisly out there, as we can all see. We have social, environmental, economic challenges, a million young people unemployed, the manifestation of which won't actually hit us for arguably for 10, 15 years. But we have some pretty significant issues that we all face as a society in the 21st century. Now, if you look at the operating landscape, the environment, back to civil society. Civil society, our friends out there, are facing a rather interesting time of it. First and foremost, we have the social environment, all the economic challenges, which are getting more and more acute as time goes on. We all know about the environment, we know about the ageing population, we know about the generation of young people which are becoming increasingly disillusioned and disengaged. The issues are compounded by some drastic cuts to public sector funding. That's the best case, 3.3 billion. We think it may be up to £5 billion worth of funding cuts between now and 2014. On top of that, we have seen a decrease of some £800 million in giving to the civil society sector. That's a drop in corporate donations, but also a drop in individuals giving, because they ain't got no money. This has resulted in a 10% reduction in headcounts across the sector, which currently employs around about 1.1 million people. We've got 870,000 charities in the UK. But it's not all bad though, because we have freed up £600 million for big society capital out of our dormant bank accounts. Does that leave a gap? One could argue probably does. So, what we have looming, ladies and gentlemen, is a bit of a system failure, indeed. Now, I'm an eternal optimist. I choose to be that way. I think there's an opportunity. I think if we look at business, I think it's fair to say that business as a whole, using 6-inch brushstrokes here, but business as a whole has slightly lost its way. And as a society, our trust in institutions is at an all-time low. We've got MP scandals, we've got phone hacking, we've got libel. But I think we need to acknowledge that the business community has to rebuild trust amongst its various stakeholders. I read with interest the blog post today on the TheCityUK site saying that financial services came bottom this year, with just 45% of survey respondents saying they trust the industry to do what is right. So what are we going to do about that? I think putting that to one side, let's look at what else is happening out there. We are going through a period of massive change. The equilibrium we've been used to for decades is being punctuated violently, quickly. And one of the main culprits and the main catalysts for that is this, and other forms of social media. I read only yesterday that Facebook now has over 1.1 billion users globally. Who have made a whopping 140.3 billion connections with each other. On average, people have about 140 connections each on Facebook, which is interesting because it's just around a Dunbar number, some of you may know. 150 connections being the optimum, the most we can actually manage. Now, if we look at the role of Facebook, the role of social media, and the impact this is having on us as consumers, us as citizens, as stakeholders, we look at how it's impacting our relationship with business, this is where things get really fascinating. Back in the day, when we were slightly disgruntled with a business, we couldn't really tell anybody about it. Yeah, we were stuck. We might talk to each other and share the bad news, but that bad news didn't really scale. But now we have social media. Here's an example of what GoodPeople were able to do immediately following the BP scandal. And I think you look at the bottom, we've got 162,000 views, and that happened over a matter of days. It doesn't even count all the conversations that are occurring within Facebook. It doesn't take into account that this was a catalyst for us to be speaking to each other down the blue zone about BP. But needless to say that reputational capital that organisations are able to either create or maintain within the social space is going to be one of the big challenges we face as the business community. Because now more than ever, we've got to start rebuilding this. I think if you look at the younger generation who are incredibly brand savvy, we need to think of very creative ways that we can start to engage young people to think positively about our brands. That's not going to happen overnight automatically. This is no longer about a very glitzy, snazzy corporate responsibility statement. It's going to be about the stories that you as a business, or you as individuals that work within business, are able to tell to your friends, to your peers, to your family, that they're able to share with their friends, their peers, their family. So how do we go about doing this? Well, if we go back to the challenges that civil society face, there's a huge opportunity. I would say that because I'm not optimist. I'm a trustee of Unlimited. Unlimited is the foundation for social entrepreneurs. We have an endowment of £120 million. Used to be worth a bit more. Took a bit of them the last couple of years, but there you go. And it was an endowment for the lottery, and we fund 1,000 social enterprises every year. We give people money to help them take their innovation, their social innovation, out to their communities and out to scale. We've funded 10,000 entrepreneurs thus far. The amount of innovation out there that's occurring on our doorsteps is insane. You've got people that are trying to tackle the challenges that they or their communities face, typically born out of their own desperation at having been exposed to whatever dysfunctional system has created the problem in the first place. What's happening out there in an Unlimited bill is we've got this whole generation of social entrepreneurs. According to Beards, 1 in 3 businesses is now a socially focused startup. 1 in 3 startups is now socially focused. We've got 238,000 social enterprises in the UK, according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. The characteristic they all share is that they need talent. Whilst they have social, they have the whole social thing in spades, what many of them are unable to do is take that social innovation to scale. They lack the technical capability, the leadership capacity, the management understanding, the commercial experience in order to go on a bit of a journey, which is where you come. The operating landscape for charities and social enterprises is changing really quickly. The policy landscape is becoming more amenable to civil society organisations. As we know, the finance is starting to open up, but the talent remains key element. Now, I think we've acknowledged that corporations are actually just people. Put the legal entity aside, we're just a bunch of people, right? Many of which have skills to offer, back to my original point. Many of us have causes that resonate with us. We all have a backstory. I think wanting to give, wanting to share, wanting to be part of something to make things better is innate. It's very much a part of being human. Who can forget the raw that went up during the Olympics? How much we celebrated that, the notion of giving, without expecting to receive. I think we all have this in us. And I think we get to the point now where the business case for employees giving is becoming mainstream. We understand that there is some quid pro quo here. And some of the more enlightened CEOs, chairpeople are starting to realise that there's some competitive advantage in their heads. Whether it's helping to develop your people, driving engagement, skills development, whether it's starting to create a far more positive, impactful brand that people want to talk about, whether it's managing risk or compliance, whether it's being open to innovation. We're starting to realise that corporations are people too. And if we can start to unleash the energy, the potential, the commitment, the engagement from our employees, magical things happen to the bottom line too. Now, if we look at the social investment marketplace, BCG, I think it was, only a couple of weeks ago reckoned that the market for social investment could be 2006, it could be 1 million by 2016. And I think there's an opportunity for the industry to start to turn itself inside out and to share its skills with all these up-and-coming charities and social enterprises that are starting to get more commercial and start to learn what it's all about, become experts. Because when the social investment or the impact investment wave hits, you could be in a very good position. With the policy landscape, loads of things happen. Localism bill, with devolving power out from the centre, from the state, from Whitehall, out to local communities that start to decide where the money goes. GP commissioning, people giving their care budgets as individuals to spend how they please. We have the social value bill, which comes into effect in the next few weeks, where public sector commissioners are going to start to measure environmental and social impact when they procure things. A couple of $100 billion per market. Is this going to be a catalyst for growth? Absolutely yes. And we're going to see this manifest in an increase in certainly public and private and civil society partnerships moving forward. Because I think that if we start to open up the skills of this sector, we can start to overcome this market failure between those that are trying to change the world with eager skills and those that have an abundance of skills. Probably quite like to change the world, but don't know where to start. I think the future holds something that looks a bit like this. And this is what we're working on Good People. We're creating a global community of people who want to use their skills, their expertise, and share their networks as a force for good, for change. And help people start to use their skills to tackle the issues that really resonate with them. And I think what we're going to see happen is we're going to see this fourth space emerge. This kind of interplay between charities, government, and business. Because that's when real change is going to happen. But if we look at what's currently happened, what we've got to do is this. At the moment, we have organisations that do some wonderful work with civil society organisations. We have Charity of the Year, we have lots of employee giving programmes, it's fantastic. But typically, these relationships are based on working for the organisation. We go and paint stuff, we put on the day glows, we go and paint walls and fences and all these wonderful things, which is wonderful, it plays its role, but when we have lawyers and bankers and people experts in finance, HR, strategy, should we get them painting stuff? I don't think so. My wife will wrestle a paintbrush out of my hands if I go near one because I'm useless at it. So how can we start to get people and their skills focused on different things? The Good People, we are focusing on mapping the demand side across civil society. So instead of getting people working for the organisation, we get people working on the organisation. Leadership, management, operations, strategy, product. Because that is where true engagement lies from people within business. That's how we start to develop sustainable, high-impact relationships, and that's where the real change comes from in our society. Because I put it to you that as human beings, our mission is this. If we can find what we're really good at, combine that with causes that we're really passionate about, start to deliver what our society actually needs, this is a path to true contentment. That's what happened after the riot cleanup. Now we hear about Homo economicus, people being rational, driven solely by self-interest. These are not the actions of people solely driven by self-interest. They're collaborating, they're part of something, they're doing something that really matters, that has meaning, and look how happy they are. So I put it to you that we all have a responsibility, and we'll have an opportunity to find that contentment that consumption won't fulfill. Thanks for listening.